Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Into the Loop podcast. I am your host, Jay Byrne. This week, I don't know, my subject matter might be all over the map, but I got some things to talk about, and we will do that. We can get started right off the bat with some news here. I was just looking at some news. Let's see. Boss is bringing back the dual digital. They're calling it the dual digital delay. It's the SDE 3000. I think it was a rack mount unit back in the day, and it was used, by Eddie Van Halen and Steve Vai and Steve Lukather. It was very, very popular. It was a very popular digital delay, and they are bringing back a affordable version of it. I guess it's called the dual digital delay, the SDE 3. So let's see. In its first iteration, it was discontinued in 1985, but over the years, the popular delay has been brought back in various forms, most recently in 2023 as the SDE 3000D and SDE 3000 EVH. Actually, if you have a Katana, there's an SDE 3000, and I think there might be one in a Helix as well. But now, let's see, the Roland Rack unit in its smallest form yet, issuing the standard stomp box size SDE 3. That's cool. It's actually kind of neat if it's something that you're interested in. Actually, it's a really good delay. I remember using it on the Katana for a while there. I was using it as one of my delay choices. So that's kind of neat. What kind of price point are we talking at here? $219. Yeah. That's about the price of most good Boss pedals, like the expensive ones, like the delay ones and stuff like that. So that's not too bad. Yeah. So when does this come out? Is it out? Let's see. I don't know. Doesn't really say. Boss is one of those people that when they announce something, it usually comes out like they announce it as it's coming out usually. So it's probably within the next couple of months you'll be able to get your hands on it. It'll just be like, it'll show up all of a sudden. It's not like they have like a release date, so to speak. Who knows, right? But let's see. Any more interesting guitar news to talk about this week? You might hear some noise in the background or talking. There's people outside my window talking. I have an air conditioner running. Yeah, there's not much I can do about all that, but that is the way it is. This is kind of cool. Dimebag Darrell, fans of Dimes from Pantera. Dimebag Darrell's Warhead amp. Okay, like apparently he had a Warhead amp. I don't know if it was is it tube or is it solid state? I don't know. Let's find out. Has been revived as a compact lunchbox head, and it was tested during Pantera rehearsals. Oh wow, cool. So they actually tested this like while they were touring for the new Pantera tour. That's actually pretty cool, I think. Yeah. So it's a Warhead is what it's called, which is at the foundation of the influential tone. I don't know. It doesn't say whether it's tube or it's solid state. I know. Oh, Jesus, what the hell? Things just went crazy on me. I know they're Dimebag's kind of known for solid state for the most part. There are some videos, a mini amp reveal. There's a video here you can find on YouTube that seems like somebody's actually trying it out or playing it. So that's kind of cool. Like a launch video, I guess. 40-watt single-channel solid-state power amp crafted with input from Dimebag's closest crew. This is really cool. This actually intrigues me. And this is cool. Because, you know what, there's not too much else to talk about other than the fact that Brian May suffered a stroke as well. And apparently he's okay and he can still play, he said. But I read that as well, which is, kind of shows you, right? Our guitar heroes are getting older. But this is cool because this leads me into what some of my subject matter for the day. I'm going to talk about solid state stuff. I am on this journey right now, basically, and I love my Katana Artist. It's sitting on the floor right now. As of right now, I will be going to a Guitar Center to sell my Katana Artist Mach 2 head. Why? Because I liked it, and it's a great amp. I mean, it's a great amp. I mean, there's kind of no reason to sell it, to be really honest with you. But if you watched my last video that just posted this week, you'll see that it was an unboxing video, and I got an orange Super Crush 100 head, and I just wanted to try it out. I wanted to see if it was worth it, if it was good, because for me with the Katana, I just use the panel. I literally just said, and most of the time it lives in the crunch mode. I use the pedal, and I use pedals with it, or I use the internal boosts. I use a lot of the different effects, like the chorus effect and stuff like that. And I like using the different effects in it. I don't really play it clean. I'm not a huge fan of the clean channel on the Katana. I feel like you have to really crank up the treble in order to get the clean channel to sound good. This is the same thing with the orange though too. But when you do it, it sounds good. Like I'm noticing with that orange Super Crush 100, I've only had it for a couple days now, and I'm going to make another video about it, but I've been playing it a lot, and it doesn't sound that bad at low volumes. It's a little fizzier at low volumes. I'm using the speaker cabinet that came with the Katana. Well, didn't come with it. It was a separate. It was part of a package deal, but technically you buy them separately. I'm using it's called the Katana Waza extension cabinet. I guess it's like I think this is a limited edition. I mean, I don't know if it's limited. I mean, these things are still around and you can still get them. But what it is it's a Katana cabinet loaded and tuned to the G12W, the Waza speakers. Their version of a greenback, basically. So yeah. So that's what that is. But I've been using that. I've been running the orange head through that, and I got to tell you, man, those speakers are awesome with the orange head. Part of me wanted a vintage 30 cab because, with orange amplifiers, everything's always vintage 30s. And I did a lot of research, and I've had a vintage 30 before, and I'm not the hugest fan of the vintage 30 speaker. I think it's harsh and kind of rough. It cuts through a mix great. Yeah, I mean, live, it's going to be the only thing you're going to hear on that stage live because it's going to cut right through. But I feel like the character of the orange amp, which is kind of very mid-forward because orange has got kind of a mid-forward sound to it, is it's going to cut through anyway. So what's nice about the greenback style speakers is it dials it back a little bit. It's not so harsh, and it's like more pleasant to listen to. And with that particular cabinet, that the Waza extension speaker, the G12W 212, it's a 212 cab. It's a 160 watt 212 cab. Because the amp is 100, so you need something that it can handle, and it's fine. It's 16 ohm, it can take it. With that particular cabinet, I was noticing, because I always kept it closed back. It has a panel that you can take off to make it open back on the back of the cabinet. And I mean, the orange amp doesn't have a ton of bass. It's not super, super bassy. It has, it's got enough bass. Don't get me wrong. You kind of have to crank the bass in order to get any bass, and it's not woofy by any means. You crank it and you get just a little bit of richness in your bass and your low end. I was noticing with the closed back cab that there was just like very, very little bass. I wasn't getting a lot of bass out of it. I mean, it was enough. I mean, there was bass. Don't lie. It was much tighter, and there was bass. And it was also, the closed back was kind of accentuating the fizziness of the solid state, like amp in general, or orange in general. It was doing something weird with the fuzz. It was kind of like making it weird. Like, I think it was killing the high end is what it was doing. And there was high end frequencies that were kind of getting lost. All right. So just as an experiment, I took the middle panel out on the back of the speaker cabinet and made it an open back because it's just a 212. And I got to tell you, I mean, it didn't just improve the sound of that amp. It made that amp sound awesome. It sounds so good in my living room. I was like, wow, this sounds amazing. And you don't have to play it that loud to get a good sound out of it. I mean, if you play it louder, it sounds freaking killer. But you don't have to play it that loud to get a good sound out of it. And so far, this amp is taking pedals like a freaking champ. I mean, the clean channel alone, I mean, you can run that clean channel like a Fender and just run your pedals straight into the front. You don't have to run them through the loop or anything. I mean, it has a loop. You can run them through the loop, but you don't have to. You can run them through and run it like you would like an old school Fender. Because I have, in my HX effects, I've got pedal boards set up. So I have a pedal board set up for my Princeton. Excuse me. I have a pedal board set up for my Princeton. And I've just been running that pedal board through the front. I mean, it's got like a little bit of a clean boost, like, chorus, slapback, that kind of stuff. And it's all running through the front. And it sounds like beautiful. It sounds great. I mean, the clean channel is awesome. You give it some volume, it's a very Fendery clean. It's a little darker, probably somewhere in between a Tweed and a regular Fender black panel amp. That's to me is what it sounds like. And remember, I'm running through Celestion greenbacks. Well, they're not Celestions, they're Boss, but they're greenbacks. And according to Boss, they're engineered to be a higher headroom greenback, because greenbacks generally are 25 and 30 watts. These are, I think, per speaker, it's like 60, 65 watts. So it's like double the wattage of, it was 70. I can't remember. I don't know. It's all different. It's something you read says that they're 100 and some, but it's a 160 watt amp. So that would mean that if it's a 160 watt cab, that would mean that they're 80 watts a piece, I guess, if you break it in half. But they say they're 100. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe, the way you set up the speaker has something to do with it. I don't know. It's loud. Believe me, it's plenty loud enough. It's louder than I can even run it. Let's put it that way. But I was a little concerned about not having the attenuation knob to bring down the volume of the amp. But I'm finding that even at lower volumes, it doesn't sound that bad. It's not like you get a bunch of fizz at lower volumes like you used to with older amps. It's got like a master volume on it. And that master volume works really well. You can bring it right down and you can play quietly. And it's a little bit more high-endy, a little more fizz in your sound. But like, it's the same thing with the Katana. You play the Katana Artist at lower volumes and it kind of, it gets a little brighter and a little more brittle sounding. I think it's more the speakers than the actual amp itself. But, yeah, somewhere down the line, I might want to get an orange I want to get my hands on an orange 212 open back cabinet that I can put these speakers in so that it, matching cab, so it looks nice. 'Cause it's just a cool setup. It just looks neat. It's all aesthetic at that point. It's just like, it doesn't really matter. But actually, the orange cabinets, they do impart a little bit more bass because they're bigger and thicker and they're a little bassier. So it's going to change the character of the sound a little bit. I don't know how much it would change the character of the sound, but it would. I mean, they come with vintage 30s, the cab that I want. It's like $600 or something like that. And it's a orange 212 open back cabinet. And it comes with 2 vintage 30s, which is fine. I'll probably end up selling the vintage 30s, or maybe I would just swap them over to the Boss cab and just, leave them in there and then have them if I need one. Heck, you could do like the Wazo, a greenback and a vintage 30, do the mix if you really wanted to. That usually sounds really good. I mean, I'd maybe experiment and try that out if I had them. But yeah. Regardless. So the Katana Artist Mach 2 is going. And partly because deep down inside, I want a Gen 3. I want the new one. Like, my OCD tendencies make me want the newest version that's out there. I'm like, I just want the new one. But I'm like, do I need it? So I started thinking about it, and I'm like, well, let me try this orange amp and see what the deal is, because this is straight up solid state. The only thing digital about it is the reverb, which, I mean, every amp that you buy now, even Tube, has a digital, like a lot of them have a digital reverb in them. It's just the thing. So there's a chip for the reverb in there. Worst case scenario, that chip dies, you don't have reverb, plain and simple. You just lose the reverb on the amp. That would be your worst case scenario. And you could probably get it fixed if you wanted to get it fixed. But yeah, It's a solid state amp, 100% solid state. I mean, it's got the weight of a solid state. I mean, it's not light. And the way Orange does it is they're using JFET, like resistors, I guess, basically to create the sound of the tube channels. They basically modeled the tube channels with the JFET resistors. So you're getting a similar sound to the tubes. It's not a tube amp. I mean, well, it's not a tube amp, but I will say it sounds a lot like a tube amp. This is closer to a tube amp than I've had since I got rid of my tube amps. Like, this has the sound. When you turn it up and give it some volume, it has the sound of a tube amp. It has that sound. It's hard to describe unless you hear it, but it has it. And the feel, it feels a little bit like a tube amp. Like, I mean, it still feels like solid state, but I don't know. I think from this point on, I just want to focus on solid state gear. Like, I mean, I'm digging the Orange gear. Maybe I'll delve deeper into Orange a little bit, but I feel like it just works for me. Like, for my sound, for my style of music, for the stuff that I play, I can get all those tones and then some with this particular amp. So I'm happy. I'm very happy, to the point where I'm actually going to sell my other amp, because I mean, it's financial reasons too. Like, I kind of got to get rid of one to keep the other, sort of thing. But I was going to try to keep both of them, but I don't need them. I don't need to. It's just extra stuff, and it's cool to have an amp collection. Don't get me wrong, but I want an amp collection that does something different. Like, they're very close. You can get them to sound through that speaker cabinet. They sound. I think the speaker kind of imparts the actual tone quite a bit, because through that speaker cabinet, they're so close that, like, I mean, yeah, it's more mid forward with the Orange, but I kind of like that, actually, because I feel like the Katana is a little bit too scooped sometimes, and like, it's like it's missing that mid range, and you can't really bring it back. It's not to say that the Katana Artist is a bad amp, because the Katana Artist Mark II is an awesome amp, and I will never say anything bad about that amp, because that amp is awesome, and it's great, and I've had it for a couple of months, and I've enjoyed every minute of it. But yeah, I don't know. It's time to move on. It's the way it works with us gear hounds. We're always buying and selling crap. But I'm also trying to kind of like refine my sound a little bit, because next year I have a friend, my friend Peter Lambert. He's coming back. He's moving. He's lived in New York for quite a few years. He's moving back to the East Coast where I live. And he wants to put a band together, and he wants to play out, so we can play out our own original music. We played as a band called Nerdy Warts, which you can check out. He's working on it. It's going up on, like, I think Spotify or something like that, or YouTube Music or something like that. He's working on getting. It's called Portuguese Boy. It's a single that he made. Him and a friend of ours, Tony, made it. He used a bunch of AI to create, like, these others. He took the lyrics and turned them into AI songs. It's the weirdest thing. It's got our song and a whole bunch of, like, AI renditions. It's an interesting single, to say the least. Like, it's unique, that's for sure. But it is, some of our music is on there as well. And we also, yeah. And so we want to play out, because we've done so many projects. We have stuff like the Tom Harding Barbecue, the Society Party, Nerdy Warts, like Room 18. Like, we want to kind of take all that stuff and just put together a set, kind of a best of, and play out with that as Nerdy Warts. We're going to do it as Nerdy Warts, probably. But, yeah. So that's what we're intending to do. So I'm kind of refining my live gear a little bit. I'm thinking of to play out. You know, I might want to also set up like a silent stage type situation somewhere down the line, get myself some sort of modeler or something, or just an amp, like a preamp that I can use. Because what's really cool, and I haven't really utilized this yet, and I don't know, I haven't tried it. The Orange Super Crush 100, the preamp in it is the Pedal Baby 100, which is Orange put this thing out called the Pedal Baby, which is a preamp. that you can just use. You just run your pedal board into it, and you can run it into a speaker cabinet. Like I mean, it's old school, you know. Like they used to use people used to use preamps all the time back in the day, and power amp, I guess is what you would call it. People, a lot of people use power amps because during the rack gear days, everyone had all their effects and their distortions on racks. It was like pedals basically, but they ran it into a power amp into the speaker, and yeah. So Orange made a power amp called the Pedal Baby 100. And the power section of the Super Crush 100 is the Pedal Baby. So you can essentially, you can run a preamp pedal straight into the return on the loop in the back. And you basically bypass the whole amp, and you would just be using the Pedal Baby 100 that's in it. And you'd be able to, in theory, you should be able to use. I'm not sure if the clean channel like knobs would actually work if you did that, but I haven't tried it, so I don't know. But you'd get the clean power amp, and you'd be able to go through that into your cab of choice, basically. So that's a cool feature to have, and it makes me want to maybe delve deeper into preamp pedals and see if I can find them. I've been curious about the UA stuff, you know, because I could get myself like a UA like a Lion, I don't need the deluxe or anything like that because really I have a Princeton, so I don't really need that. But I could I'd be interested in like there's the Lion, and there's the one that's the I can't think of the name off the top of my head, but there's the one that's the let's see, I got a computer right in front of me. UA preamp pedals. Let's see. Here we go. The Ruby, which is the it's a AC30 basically. So I'd be interested in the Lion 68 and the Ruby. I don't really need the Dream because I have maybe that'd be kind of cool. They're expensive, so I mean, I'm not going to go out and buy like 10 of them. But it'd be cool to get some preamp pedals and give it a shot and see how that sounds, because that could make the amp sound even better than it does. But honestly, I like the sound of it, and I'm starting to like the sound of an Orange amp. I've always kind of appreciated it. I like that like Black Sabbath-y like fizz that you used to get in some of the 70s stuff. I mean, you can get that Sabbath sound, man, with no pedals, with nothing. You can plug right into the front of the amp, and you can get that Sabbath sound, and it's freaking glorious, and it sounds really cool. Because that's a weird sound to get. Like, it's very specific to a certain amp type. But you can get that. But you can also dial it back and get a little bit Marshall-y, and you can, it's not as bright as a Marshall, but you can get, a close, facsimile or whatever you want to call it of a Marshall. But yeah. So yeah, I guess that's enough about me and my stuff. But I watched a video the other day about it was a Rhett Shull video. It's their podcast there. Oh God. I see I'm not prepared today, and I am not doing what is the Rhett Shull podcast? I don't know what the Rhett Shull podcast is off the top of my head. What is that picture? There's a picture of this guy from Reddit. It says Rhett Shull, and he comes up. That is not Rhett Shull. This picture of this guy, it comes up as Rhett Shull is not him. It does not. Maybe it's like an AI version of him with long hair and a beard or something. This is the weirdest looking picture. I don't know what this is. It's a video or something that he posted. But anyway, he does a podcast. And they were talking about how in the touring world and playing out, being a local band, that amps are kind of disappearing. Like the idea of playing a tube amp live is just, it's not. Yeah, people are using smaller amps and modelers and whatnot because a lot of clubs where people play are implementing what they call silent stage now. So everything goes straight to house. And it makes sense from the sound person's point of view, because they can it's like listening to studio monitors. Their PA system is the studio monitors, and they're just mixing to the studio monitors, so it sounds good in the audience. You get a nice blend of everything. You're still going to get bleed from the drums, but generally speaking, you're not going to have the amps and the drums bleeding out the PA system. So that was always tricky, because, I mean, even like when I was growing up and I played in a band called Room 18, we have a lot of soundboard tapes, and you can hear on the soundboard tapes how we were playing loud on the stage. And I never thought about this back then. I just always said, why does the guitar sound so low in the soundboard tapes? It makes sense, because they were lowering the guitars because you could hear them pushing from the amps on the stage. It's a small club. Like, the amps were actually providing the volume for the guitars, and they were just a little bit of bleed through in the PA system. So it was keeping, the guitars lower in the mix for the PA. So from the audience, it sounded great, but if you're listening to that straight PA mix, it's a little bit, it's not the best. But yeah. So they were talking about that, and Rhett Shull and his friend, the guy from Mythos Pedals, he, I'm really off my game today. I should know this stuff, but anyway, they're big time tube amp guys. So to them, they're trying to defend the tube amp thing. They're trying to, just defend it and saying, yeah, well, I'm never going to leave. I love my tube amps. I love my tube amps. I don't want to get rid of my tube amps. And from that perspective, I can see it. I mean, I like having an amp, plain and simple. Like, look at what I'm going through to try to create. I mean, it's a 212 stack, basically. It's a head and a cab, 212. It's 100 watts, for freaking Christ's sake. I don't need all that power, but I have it. But they're defending the tube side a little bit in the video, and they pretty much come to the conclusion that it really is the way that it's all working out. Like, it really, amps are disappearing from live venues, to make it easier for the sound guy. And I'm not sure. I mean, if leave comments if you listen to this podcast and you have you have thoughts on this, leave some comments down in the comment section, and maybe I'll be able to respond to them. But yeah, I don't really have a what do they call it? I don't have an issue like with amps kind of falling out a little bit. As long as it sounds good from the audience, it doesn't matter. I mean, it's nice. It's part of the look, though. I feel growing up, seeing a band with them stacks of amplifiers behind them, that was the look, and it was cool. Just seeing a bunch of guys on stage with no amplifiers, it sometimes leads you to wonder: are they even playing live, or are they just miming? That's my generation. And I'm in my late 40s. I'm 49. I just had my birthday. So my generation, that's how we look at it. Like, it's like, okay, posers, are they no amps? You're a bunch of posers. A lot of guys from my generation are like, just plug straight into the amp. I don't use pedals. If you have a good amp, yeah, cool. And you can do it with certain amps, but you can't do it with all amps. I mean, you kind of, especially if you have a lot of songs that have a lot of different types of sounds and styles and stuff like that, you have to tailor your sound to that. So yeah, but yeah, I'm not really sure where I stand on this. Like, do I think it's a bad thing that amplifiers, tube amps in general, are kind of like going the way of the dodo, so to speak? I don't know. They made a few good points. They said that a lot of modern musicians, they're growing up on bands that are using plugins and Axe effects and helixes and stuff to record their tones. So the tones that they're getting, that's the sound that they want to get. Like, when we grew up, we wanted to sound like our heroes, our guitar heroes, And our Guitar Heroes played big, loud amps. So that's what we wanted to play, was big, loud amps. But now it's different. A lot of people, younger people now, it's like, whoa, that's too loud. Why would you even play that? You're destroying your hearing. Like, they have a more sensible approach to it, to be really honest with you. And whether it's good or bad, I can't really, I don't have an opinion on that, because I mean, I'm like 49 years old. So to me, you know, Marshall, I remember going back to my clubbing days, like when I used to play, and I'm hopefully going to be playing out again. When I used to play clubs more when I was younger, in my 20s or so, 20s, early 30s. No, late 20s, my 20s, basically. I remember the majority of bands that we played with and we saw, everything was half stacks. It was a lot of Marshall half stacks. Everybody had Marshall half stacks. Even my other band member had a Marshall. I had a freaking crate half stack, because I had a solid state crate. But honestly, that amp didn't sound that bad. It had a few issues, but it didn't sound that bad. Then we started using some like amp modelers and distortion pedals through our amps to try to make them sound better. And to be really honest with you, I think we sounded better when we would just run in straight amp. It just sounded bigger and cooler, you know? Just had a bolder sound to it. But yeah, that's what we used to use. It was a half stack, 412. Now things are getting smaller and smaller. People using 112s. I'm kind of I kind of feel like, for me personally, 212 is kind of as low as I want to go. I like 112 combos, like, you know, a deluxe reverb or something like that. It sounds great. It's plenty loud and it sounds really good. I'm not opposed to that, but I like the spread of a 212 amp. I think it just sounds bigger. I've always loved like the 212 thing. 412 is huge. You know, that's a freaking cab. Those are great. And there's more thump to a 412 when you're playing through a 412 cabinet. If you've never played through something like that, there's more thump. The louder you get a little bit of a thud when you chug, you know. When you start going 212 and below, you lose some of that chug. But you lose that chug at the expense of clarity. Things start sounding clearer. You can hear the speakers better. You know, they sound nicer. 112 is like kind of perfect, because if they're miking your amplifier live, they're miking one speaker. So that's it. You don't need any more speakers than that, unless you're trying to project to the audience because you're not running through a PA or something like that. You really don't need more than that one speaker if you're being mic'd up. And most of the time, most 112s are pretty loud. I mean, deluxe reverb is 22 watts, which is, it's loud. Just believe me. Just trust me. It is loud. Even a Princeton's like 12 watts or something like that. And that's loud. I mean, I have a little Tone Master Princeton, okay, that I play. Like, on full attenuation in my house, I can't play that thing any louder than 3 or 4. Like, it's on like 4. I mean, I can kick the attenuation back and get it up a little louder. But that's because those type of amps have built-in attenuation on the back of them. If you don't have an attenuator and you're just using straight tube, those amps are loud. Like, it's a loud amp. I mean, it farts out a little bit because it's a smaller cabinet when you start getting loud. But that's part of the sound, too. There's something to the sound of a Princeton cranked. It has that thing. It has a Tom Petty kind of thing going on, which I like, personally. That's like, I've been in this tone chase for a long time, trying to find what I like. And I have found that I personally prefer, like, I prefer a Fender sound over anything else. Fender, but I want distortion, the distortion of a Marshall. So I think that's why I'm kind of like enjoying the orange thing right now, because it kind of is that. It's kind of like the darker sound of a Fender with the brighter distortion of a Marshall. So you can get a nice, you know, kind of balanced tone, I guess you would say, where it's not super bright, but it's not super dark. Specifically, the Super Crush is based after the Rockerverb Mach 3. I've seen some videos where they compared them, and they're really close. So, yeah, I mean, I love Rockerverbs. I've wanted an orange Rockerverb. It's just a cool amp. But yeah, so that's kind of like the middle ground that I'm sort of looking for. I'm not the hugest fan of all the fizz and fuzz in this in the distortion, but you can dial it back, and sometimes it's kind of fun just to have it. Sometimes it's just big and ballsy, and it sounds cool if you're trying to do a Black Sabbath-y thing, you know. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't have a dog in this race, so to speak. So, we used to play out, and everything was loud. We're all deaf. Like my whole generation and generations before us, we're just freaking deaf now that we're old. We can't hear anything. Our ears are completely deaf. I mean, I live with like constant tinnitus. My ears make weird noises all the time. It's just like I'm used to it. I just get used to it. It's just the way it is. The good thing about modern generations is with all the in-ear monitors and the silent stages, they might actually have a chance when they get older to still have their hearing when they're like 50, 60 years old. They may still have good hearing. I mean, everybody kind of starts to lose top end when you get older. You lose the treble, you know. That's the first thing to go for anybody. But, yeah, I mean, maybe you can preserve your hearing. I don't know. Yes. What are we looking at for time here? Oh, I can't see. It's like 36 minutes or so. Okay. Not bad. We're going. We're talking. All right, I think I'm going to go to, I'm wondering, do I have anything else I even want to say on the matter? This is just kind of stuff that I was randomly talking about. There was a video. I posted a video a couple of weeks ago. I'm going to, this podcast, my goal with the podcast going forward is to do it every other week. Because I feel like every week I just don't have enough to talk about. And give me 2 weeks and I can talk for a little while. But every week, for the time being, it's just not enough to talk about. I mean, I try to get a video up every week for the actual effects loop. But I'm going to try to do the podcast every other week. So every other week, you'll have a video and a podcast. And then, you'll have a video. And I still haven't abandoned the SFX loop for anybody out there who cares. I have some ideas for a few videos I might want to do as the SFX loop. And, when I get around to them, I'll get around to them. I mean, those videos didn't get the kind of views that the guitar stuff got. So, yeah, I mean, I want to do them. And I set up the fact that I will occasionally do them. So, I'm not writing it off completely. I will probably do some more SFX loop videos, if that's your thing and if you're interested in that. It was about movies and that kind of stuff. And like I said, I might incorporate some of that chatter into my podcast as well. But right now I don't really have anything to talk about as far as that stuff is concerned. So let's go to my YouTube page and let's see if we can, not that. What am I doing? Wait a second. YouTube, here we go. I got to go to my comments section and let's see if I can find any interesting comments here that I can actually comment on. We'll do viewer comments for a little while. We talked about the Super Crush. We talked about, just silent stages and stuff like that. I'm a little bit, God help us knows nothing. What is this? All right, this ought to be good. I don't know what this guy's talking about. He's obviously insulting me. So somebody named @Robert Peterson-J2U was commenting on my Epiphone SG video. And he wrote, "God help us, knows nothing." Okay, thanks, dude. You could be a little bit more specific than that if you want to. But honestly, you can't take this stuff to heart, and I don't. I honestly don't care. It's just it's a faceless name on the internet. All right, so here we go. We got somebody wrote @Smoking Tar Heel 3003 responded on my Fender Deluxe Reverb Tone Master tips and tricks video. He wrote, "Great video. The Deluxe Reverb Tone Master sings. Great practical tips for us. Thanks. You are very welcome." I'm just looking for questions more than anything else. Like, see if there's anything. Somebody commented on a very old video of mine, a Squier Classic Vibe 50 Stratocaster, or Cautionary Tales, when I was trying to change out the, in that video, I'm trying to change out the the bridge, and I bought the wrong size bridge. It didn't fit, but I learned my lesson that I thought I had the right one. It's hard with these import guitars to get the right size stuff, and some of it's not as easy to get your hands on because you can find like bridges and stuff like that for like the American made stuff like everywhere. You can just go to Amazon, you can buy it, you'll have it by tomorrow. But the import stuff, the sizes are weird, and you have to really, really try to figure out what the size is. And you got to go through specific companies that make for those sizes and stuff. And so he wrote at the Honest Guitarist 6543, he wrote, always leave well enough alone. CVs don't need upgrades. Upgrade playing skills, not guitars. And he put like a little laughing emoji. Obviously it looks like he's joking. Like he's not insulting me. He's just goofing. He's just making a joke. Yeah, it's true. Upgrade playing skills, not guitars. He totally right about the classic vibes not needing upgrades. They really don't. They're fine. Honestly, my Telecaster, which I love, the only thing that I'm starting to have a little issue with is the volume knob is a little scratchy at the top, and it's like it doesn't. I don't know. It's weird. It doesn't go away, but it's like. I mean, I don't really play with the volume that much when I'm playing, so it doesn't really affect my playing in any way, shape, but if I to bring the knob down while I'm playing, you hear a little noise. It's kind of annoying. So I may eventually have to replace the electronics in that. But right now, I'm not too worried about it. It doesn't really seem to affect me in any weird way. But the pickups in that guitar are great. The same thing with the 60 Strat that I have. The pickups are really good. I actually like the sound of the pickups in those guitars. They sound really good. The only thing I usually update on those guitars is I usually update the bridges because they feel cheap to me. I don't know why. They just feel cheap. And I don't think they're any cheaper than, say, like a Player or something like that. If anything, they're about the same. With the Strat, actually, the only thing I updated, I changed the tuners on the Strat because I think they kind of screwed up with that Strat. Things were not lined up properly. But by changing the tuners and adjusting the neck and stuff like that, I was able to get it normal, and it's fine, and it plays in tune, and it intonates, and it sounds great. Actually, it plays really nice now. And the tuners that I put in it, the Hipshot ones, are amazing. They're so much better than the stock ones that were on it, and they're locking, so that's kind of cool. So yeah, for me, for Strat, that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. Somebody wrote, they're responding to my Roland JC40, can it be your only amp video, which is the very first video that I ever made. It's just funny because it's all YouTube promotes is like my very first video. The video has like a bajillion views, like 30,000 views or some stupid crap like that. But they don't promote my other videos for whatever reason. So he writes, thanks, brother. I'm buying JC40, selling my EVH. I don't know if I really should have. I don't know. Maybe you should keep the EVH. I don't know. But the JC40 was really good. Actually, I want a JC120. I'm crazy. That's no reason. I do not need a JC120. There's something wrong with me. But I want a JC120 because I've gone through these different brands of amps. Like I had gone through Orange, I'd gone through Marshall, I'd gone through Fender. I did some Roland stuff, and I've personally found that I'm a fan of the Roland JC series. I like those amps. I mean, they're clean, they're sterile, but I like to play clean and sterile sometimes. It just sounds good to me, and I love the chorus on them. They sound great. I would love to have a JC120, just like that freaking huge-ass amp, but it's heavy as shit, too. Oh, sorry. Heavy. It's very heavy. But, yikesers. Yeah, I don't need it, but it's a good amp. And they take pedals reasonably well. I mean, you probably got to give it some volume so it doesn't sound harsh, but they take pedals. I wonder if, from my own purposes, if it would almost make sense for me to get another JC40 again, because I don't have the JC40 anymore. Like, instead of getting the 120, maybe the JC40 would be the best amp for me to have. So I got this thing where I'm okay with digital in my amps as long as I don't have to plug it into a computer and update it or change things. I'm okay with that. Like the Tone Masters are cool because like you update them if you want to update them to change the reverb or the reverb. That's it. You update them for the reverb change if that's what you want, or like change the speaker IRs in the back or something like that. And no, the deluxe reverb is bright cap. You can update it so it doesn't have the bright cap. But that's it. I mean that's a mod that if you want to make that mod you can. But the way they come stock, you never have to touch that. Like that's just the amp. If you want to mod it, you can digitally mod it. And I know the Roland JC40s are solid state digital hybrids, basically. I kind of almost want the 120 because the 120 is actually solid state. But yeah, I don't know. Those JC40s were pretty good. That JC40 was good. I missed that amp. That amp was pretty cool. You do some really cool stuff with it. Do I need another one? No, I don't need another one at all. At all. It's unnecessary 100%. I'm literally selling an amp head today because I don't need more amps. But do I want one? Yeah, sure. I want one. That was from at Odin's Skull Nation Ragnar 9528. He said he's buying a JC40, selling his EVH. Okay, dude. Cool. Hey, you know what? You can get a good sound out of it with pedals. You give it some volume. It's loud. It's definitely loud, and it kind of needs to be loud to sound good if you're using distortion with it. But if you're playing clean, you can play it low, clean. It sounds nice. The chorus channel sounds beautiful, actually. It sounds gorgeous in stereo. So at Edwin Wise 6751, this guy writes, these are all new comments, basically. People are commenting on my old videos, which is really nice. But the funny thing is, a lot of these old videos, I don't own these amps or these guitars anymore. Some of them I do. The Boss Next Tone special video I made, is it really that special? He wrote, played and jammed with players who use the katana. You get what you pay for. Yeah. I don't know if I agree with that comment. And not in a negative way. I'm not trying to be mean or anything like that. You do get what you pay for, but those amps are not cheap. Like that, it's like a $700-800 amp. That's not cheap. That is an average price for an amp. Like people out there who are used to spending $2,000-3,000 on a head and a cabinet, the real world, we buy amps for around $1,000. In the real world, people, regular people, we spend $1,000 on an amp. That's that 1,000 or under. That's what we do. And those amps are in that price range. Honestly, the problem that I had with the Boss Next Tone Special is I did not like the speaker, and the distortion was not that great. Does it do a thing that I think if you're a fan of that thing, you would be fine with it? Yes. What I like about it is all the knobs are on the panel. You don't need to go into the software, which is kind of cool with the Next Tone Special. You don't need to deal with the software. That's the thing with these Boss amps, and they're great amps. They really are. They're amazing amps. But everything is tied to software, which bugs me because software stops working after a while. After quite a few years, it won't work with your computer anymore. It'll be outdated. You can't still use old software. And if it's not being updated to modern systems, you're pretty much screwed, So in that way, that's the problem I have with the amps. I mean, I like them and they sound so good, but I don't like the software aspect of it. I don't like the fact that you basically, it's something that can become obsolete. I mean, I can deal with it for an effects pedal or an effects unit or something along that line. Actually, the freaking HX effects that I have, all right, yes, it has software, but you can do everything that you can do in that software on the actual unit. It's a little more clunky, but you can use the buttons and the knobs to control everything that you can do in the software. That's cool to me. Okay, that's fine. Because if you ever lose the software, you can't use it for some reason, you can still use your unit. It's still usable. But when, like with the Katana, okay, with the Artist, it's great that it has all those built-in effects. I love all those built-in effects. But those built-in effects are for the Katana. It's not like I can use those effects on my Fender or, the Orange or whatever. I can't transfer those effects. They're good for that. So those as long as I can get a sound that I like recorded out of that katana, I can use those effects with that katana. So it's limiting in that way. It's not like having a pedal board that's separate that you can use with any amp in your house. Modular stuff is kind of where I like modular stuff, you know. Okay, so this is my last 2 videos, because I made a music video with my daughter to a song that she wrote, which is cool, and I think the music video came out good. She just sits there and stares at the camera, looks kind of weird, but she had fun and she enjoyed it, so that's cool. I might have talked about that. I think I talked about that in the last podcast anyway. And then there was a Danzig video. It was called Tone Chasing. It was a new series of videos that I want to try to do, where I'm trying to create, sound. I took what I had and tried to make it sound like something else. And then, oddly enough, I used the katana, and I think I got pretty close. I was able to get the Danzig tone using the katana in like a Klon style overdrive, and it sounded really good. Cool thing about it is the orange kind of just sounds like it. I don't even need to mess with it. You can just put the distortion on and it's there. This guy wrote at Zen Sword 7815. Zen Sword, that's my buddy. That's Rob. Hello, Rob. If you listen to this podcast, so see, I didn't realize it. I should know Zen Sword is him because he's into swords and stuff like that. And he's a guitar player. He was the guitarist for the band Room 18, which I was talking about previously. He always loved the sound of that album in general. Minimal tracks, and you can hear the sound of the space in the room like it has room to breathe. Always liked Sylvia Massey's productions, and that's Danzig, the first Danzig album, 1988. I just love the way that album sounds. I love the guitar sound of that album. Funny thing about it is Danzig and John Christ and stuff, they don't like the sound of that album. They think it sounds bad. Like they wanted it to sound different. And it has that... It's Rick Rubin. So it has that Rick Rubin thing going on where it's just dry, but it sounds great. It just sounds like a band in a room, and it sounds awesome. And supposedly the tone, there is no reverb on those guitar tracks. That is literally the space in the room. Because like Rob says, if this is Rob, I'm pretty sure it is. You can hear the sound of the space in the room, and it has room to breathe, and you really can. You can hear that air in the room, and it sounds so cool. So that's awesome. I'm just a fan of that album in general, and I love that tone, and it's just a great minimalistic rock and roll sound, So yeah, so thanks, Rob, for your if that's your comment, or at Zen Sword 7815. Okay, so there's another one here. The Boss Katana Artist Mark II. This was for the combo that I had. This guy at John L. Fieri, 1613. I really enjoy your videos. Excellent demos that are tailored to a large audience of people who just use the panel. Great job. I just got upgraded from Artist Mark II to Artist Gen 3. Hope you want a hold of one of these. Thanks. Oh, cool. Awesome. Well, that's cool. See, he went from the Mach 2 to the Gen 3, which is what I kind of want to do. But I don't know. I would love to get my hands on one just to try one to see what it sounds like. I mean, I hear they sound great. But I've been talking about the katanas for a while now. That's what I'm trying to do with my videos in general. I try to tailor it I try to make it for everybody, I'm not trying to push something. I mean, sometimes it seems like you're like a commercial sometimes when you're making these videos. I don't like to sound like a commercial. You got to try to talk with authority and sound like you know what you're talking about, because I mean, why do you want to sound like an idiot in your video? But yeah, I just try to do the best I can and get the information that I know or that I've learned from messing around with something. But yes, so thanks, man. I'm glad you enjoy my videos, and yeah. Somebody else wrote, thanks for teaching us. It was on a Roland SPD-1 wave pad. That thing is awesome, that little wave pad thing that I can just trigger backing tracks for. That's perfect for me, and it's useful for so many different situations. It's just a little device a little trigger pad that's really cool, just kind of useful. And if you really dig that kind of stuff, then cool. Like if you need backing tracks for some reason, So somebody else, you're a hero. Thank you so much. Hardly any decent videos on product. It's annoying. Fender Deluxe Reverb Tonemaster video at Solo GX2XC. Thank you. I appreciate that, man. That's really awesome that you say something like that. Like, I'm just trying to show it off. I'm just trying to show you what you can do with it. A lot of these videos that you see are just product ads. So they're just trying to get the product out that they're going to show. I've gotten to the point now where I don't really make a video unless I have something to say. Like, I used to just make a video about everything that I bought. I've had quite a few things that I haven't made videos about just because I never really had anything interesting to say about it. Like I'm going to make a video about the orange because I'm really digging the orange and ways to make it sound cool and things you can do with it. That's awesome. And I really want to do that. I also want to illustrate the fact that you don't have to go through a freaking vintage 30 cab. You can go through like a greenback cab or something else. You can use what you have and see what it sounds like. I would suggest staying in the Celestian family with the orange. You know, something like, if you want a vintage 30, you can have a vintage 30, but something like a G12 greenback, a heritage greenback, or just a regular greenback. But with a regular greenback, though, you'd have to have a 412 cab because it's 100 watts. So you'd have to have a 412 because it'd be 425 watt speakers or 30 watt speakers. You could probably run it into a 212, maybe like 230 watt heritages or something like that. It'd be like 60 watts. But you wouldn't want to push it because you'd blow up the speakers. But that is the sound of rock and roll, baby. Blowing up speakers. So... okay, I think that's going to be it for today. This is a little bit of off the cuff episode. I hope I talked about something interesting and you got something out of it. If you like this kind of stuff, like, subscribe, blah, 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 all that crap. And yeah, so podcasts will be every other week and the videos will be once a week like I've been doing. And so yeah, I hope you enjoyed this episode and talk to you next time. Take care.